let's call a meeting to order. As Amy indicated, we do now have a quorum. We can conduct business. Amy, would you like for everybody to introduce themselves?
Yeah, that would be
Two
great.
dads, we've got some new faces. Let's start with the folks that are zoomed in with us. Stacy, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm Stacy May, Planning and Information Manager for the Bluegrass area.
Okay. Can't find anybody else? Anyone else on Zoom? Yeah, just don't be bashful.
Good morning. I'm Jennifer Hayes. I'm the project director for the direct service provider, Equus Workforce Services.
Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Todd Blanton, one-stop operator for the Kentucky Career Centers Bluegrass. I work for Equus Workforce Solutions.
Good morning, everyone. Deb Giordano, Vice President Service Delivery for Equus Workforce Solutions. Great to be with you here today.
Anyone else? Don't be bashful.
Judge Gritton from Anderson County, president of the Mike Williams Fan Club.
Good morning, sir.
Hannah Gregory, Quality Control from the Bluegrass.
Hannah.
Tiffany Reeves.
Good morning. See, Robin's with us. Don't be bashful, Robin.
I don't know if you want to hear me talking, but I'm here.
Anyone else?
Jeremy's here, so that's just
Okay, let's go around the room here.
Mike Riley, HR Director with Bluegrass Hat.
Michael Bushman, CFO of Bluegrass Hat.
Colin Mosley, WEO accountant.
Kevin Atkins, Chief Development Officer for the City of Lexington.
Amy Glasscock, Workforce Director. Linda Gordon, Mayor of Lexington.
Mike Williams, Bourbon County Judge.
David West, Jessamine County Judge. Steve Hamilton, Nicholas County Judge.
Ellie Road with the ad.
Jeremy Hurd, IT Specialist for the ad.
Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. We'll move to our group of action items. First one on the list is the review and approval of minutes from the 12/5 and 1/26 meetings that were enclosed in your packet. If you haven't seen them, I assume it's okay that if we approve both in the same action. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from those two meetings. So moved.
Second.
A motion from Judge West and a second from Mayor Gordon to approve those minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to either set of minutes? Those in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Review and approval of financial report for January. Colin Mosley enclosed in the packet.
All right, so if you'll notice in our packet, we've got two different versions of the January report. They both contain the same information, except the second is the more up-to-date, where we added some additional information to explain the percentage of the budget that we had expended at each subsequent month in fiscal year 2023. And then we also adjusted our projection trend line to show a more accurate version of what funds we had available. So as we have gotten through January, we were at 61% expended. We're at 70% expended on our overall budget, as compared to 61% the prior year. Our administration expenses were at 65% through January, as opposed to 62% in the prior year. Our adult expenditures were at about 91% as opposed to 73% in the prior year. Our dislocated worker program was at 31% expended as compared with 74% the prior year. And then youth was at 73% expended versus 66% in the prior year at the same time. And then we also have a requirement to spend 20% of youth program funds on work experience. And as of the end of January, we were at 94% expended on that requirement.
That's not going to be a problem.
That's pretty well done. Sure.
The dislocated worker number, the 31%, we have a clear understanding of why we're that low. Sure.
Yeah, so really, these programs are really just about utilization. So who walks in the door? Dislocated worker is always historically very low. And they, it's based on a allocation from the federal level and then an allocation method they use at state level, and it's passed to the AS. And it's pretty antiquated. It doesn't really show the true statistics. So historically, dislocated worker is very high, and we'll never use that. So a lot of areas, specifically, will always transfer those funds from dislocated worker to adult program to help expend those funds. And then this January report does not reflect our most recent transfer approval. So once that transfer is input in the budget for February, we should see a higher percentage where we adjust the budget for COLA.
Can you mind reminding us the definition of what falls under that umbrella of dislocated worker?
Sure, yeah.
Sort of Jamie, the services that we provide under that.
So an adult is anyone that's 18 or older that's unemployed or underemployed. A dislocated worker is someone that's been laid off at no fault of their own. So they could be laid off from their position, and of course, there's not a lot of layoffs right now. Mostly there's people are going to work, so we don't have many dislocated workers from that. And there could even be someone that's she was a homemaker and now she wants to go back to work. She could be considered a dislocated worker. Military could be considered dislocated workers.
Is there, if I might ask, is there any qualification time-wise if someone's laid off and they've been looking for a job, is there any end date to when they're considered dislocated?
No.
Is it when they go back to work?
It's when they go
So
back
it could
to
be
work.
2 years.
It could be.
So we could be, are we counting this? I guess what I'm thinking about is how many people we actually have, or is it the same person reported every month?
No, it's not the same. We only report the person one time when we enroll them for dislocated worker. We can't report it multiple times.
Okay.
But like Michael was saying, we're allowed 100% to transfer adult over to dislocated worker. So where we have so many adults, excuse me, where we do a lot with the recovery population and the incarcerated and people with barriers and things, they're mostly considered adults. They're not considered dislocated workers. And that's why we transfer so much from our dislocated workers.
It's interesting regarding, for instance, a homemaker who had been out of the workforce for a while and decides to go back to work. That is, are we in a period of time where there are a lot of those folks?
Yeah, there's not. I know with COVID, a lot of women decided to stay at home and work from home just based on childcare and that sort of thing. But we have not seen that there's a huge amount of people that have exited the workforce, and then decided to come back.
Does anybody else have any questions regarding report? I'll entertain a motion to approve financial report.
Move approval.
Mayor's made the motion. Who seconds that motion? Again, any other questions or comments regarding any of the reports? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 on our list is approval of interim director of workforce. Amy, you want to
Sure.
explain to us how to do that?
Sure.
Not
Just
to
a
put you
tiny
on
bit
the spot
awkward.
or anything.
I have accepted a new position with the city of Lexington. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to be working with Mike Riley. He will be the interim workforce director until a new workforce director is hired. So effective immediately, he will be the interim, begin the transition process. And I'll help him as we go through the, transition, anything he needs. And he'll start attending meetings and that sort of thing. Mike, as you all know, he worked in workforce for a few years, and so he's very familiar with what I do with workforce and everything. So I think you all be in very good hands for the next few months until we find someone new.
I'm sure we will be in very good hands. I assure you we are. I know I speak for the other deals. We are grieving for the Bluegrass ad. Will be missed, and we're happy for the Lexington Fayette Urban County government. I truly mean that. I know that your services will be in good hands as well. Maybe we will miss you. Thank you for all you've done for the ad and for all the, especially for the individuals that have benefited from the services that the ad provides. That's the most important thing, you know that. I wish you well and congratulations. Congratulations, Mike. We do actually need to vote on this. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve Mike Riley as the interim workforce director.
I make that motion.
Judge Aubrey Britton has made that motion. Your second. Judge Hamilton has seconded that motion. Does everybody understand what we're doing and when we're doing it? Amy, remind us, what is your last date with the ad?
It'll be the 31st will be my official last day here in the office.
What year?
Of this year.
Of 23?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's an optimist?
Okay, so the 31st of March of 23 will be your last day as an employee of the ad.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to, I guess, the action needs to be like effective April 1st. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I guess it's officially, you can.
May I make a comment,
Yes, ma'am.
Judge?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
will see her again. You remember how Elodie used to come with me to meetings?
Yes.
And I suspect that Amy will be doing some of that.
I look forward
And
to
so
seeing her
you'll
when
be,
she can.
yes, I know, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll move to item number 4, reschedule meeting dates for the remainder of the 23 calendar. New dates enclosed. So we're looking at our next scheduled meeting would be the 21st of June. Our joint meeting, the 6th of September, and then our last meeting of the calendar year, the 20th of December.
That's right.
Anything you want to share
The only thing is on
regarding the meeting plans?
on the 6th of September, that meeting will not be offered by Zoom.
Okay.
It will be in person only.
Expectation that we'll all be in person.
And the other two will be a hybrid meeting.
And of course, if we need to, we can call a meeting anytime in between the scheduled meetings. Mayor? Yes, ma'am.
Just, it's way ahead of time, but I know right now, unfortunately, I cannot attend the joint meeting September 6th, and I apologize.
We'll appoint you to several committees.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm afraid of.
That won't be a problem. We'll watch out for you, I assure you.
That does seem to happen. You have to miss a meeting,
That's right.
you get on a lot of chairmans and committees or.
I'm sure Judge Aubrey Britton will be glad to watch out for you. See, is he paying attention? Whether he's listening or not. So we need to approve the scheduled dates. Entertain a motion to approve the calendar as posted in your packet.
I move approval of the calendar as presented.
Mayor Gordon has made that motion. Do you hear a second? Judge West has seconded the motion. Does everybody understand? We can plan accordingly. It's nice to have this much lead time, although June doesn't seem that all that far away anymore, does it? All in favor of the motion signify by aye. Anyone opposed? Motion does carry. So we have taken care of our action items. We have several under number 3 informational items that we want to go through. Obviously, the status of WIOA funds budget analysis and close. Michael Bushman is going to share that with us. Michael, the floor is yours.
All right. So at any point, please stop. Any questions anyone has, but be as transparent as possible. I believe most have been informed at this point of kind of our situation with the workforce budget. To try and summarize, essentially we didn't have an adequate way to truly track funds starting in the year 2021. There used to be a spreadsheet which is called the budget analysis in the packet. That's how I know when I was in Colin's position, that was kind of the way I tracked our budget, and then I would communicate that with the CFO, and basically we would reflect the changes in anything in our accounting system. Simply put, that this spreadsheet kind of fell by the wayside during 2021. So essentially, budgets updated, and then the expenses and carryover were not accurately calculated. So that started in 2021. So we did not have correct budget numbers at the end of 21, and that rolled over through 2022, and then now in 2023. In November, I took over the workforce. November of 2022, I took over the workforce when we had a staff leave to kind of take over the numbers. At that point, I kind of I started digging in and seeing, I tried to recreate the whole fiscal year to see where our true numbers were. And I started noticing that we were vastly overspent in our budget. So I communicated with Amy, and she communicated with Equus staff. We tried to slow down the spending, and unfortunately, we couldn't shake out what the true numbers were until January. At that point, we knew that we were extremely overspent, and we only had about $560,000 to operate the rest of fiscal year 23. So through June of 2023. We unfortunately had to make drastic changes to limp through the year. We had to lay staff off, both Equus and Bluegrass Ad staff. And we also had to make a set of 3 separate transfers to make up the overages. All 3 of those transfers were approved. That's the good news. We do have the NFAs, so they're signed and official. And that's what I was referring to. We'll see those changes in February, in the February report where we had those, and we'll reflect those transfers. So the good news is that we caught it. The unfortunate thing is we had to lay staff off, and we had to no longer have enrollments, and we had to pull staff out or participants out of training. So that's kind of the unfortunate news. I've been working with the state to make sure our work system is correct. Internally, we have added new internal controls, and I've caught up this spreadsheet to match actuals. So this is all operating as it should, and we now have new ways to make sure that it is tracking correctly with the state reporting as well as our draws. The current status I'm still working on is called an applicable credit because I get into it too far, but basically funds were drawn from different pots that should not have been throughout the year. So basically with these expenses, I went through and corrected everything, and basically I'm trying to apply this credit to match the balances on each grant fund. So as soon as that is approved by the state, I have a huge, $2 million draw essentially that goes for all Equus funds, as well as some of our operating funds that were not drawn throughout the year. So we will receive a lot of money, which is great. We've unfortunately had to, get by on other transfers and other programs just to kind of float through. But that's the good news there, is that we'll receive about $2 million. I mean, a lot of it obviously will be paid out to Equus, but that's just currently where we are right now. I kind of blew through that, and then, there any specific questions? I'd love to address those. Yes.
I would like to know, so is that, I have a couple of questions. Is that what all the red is about
The red?
in the report? Yes.
You talking, I guess mine's not.
I always alert.
I have a black copy, yes.
I always
yes.
alert on when there's a lot of red.
Yes.
Budget report.
So, if you're looking at specifically the one that says June of '22,
Mhm.
yes, there is and you can kind of see, this is the bridge I was talking about. There's a overage on grant 273-8022, so that's an adult grant at the bottom. And like you said, there's a red amount that says 533,000 on the budget balance. That's what we are over on adults funds after I went through and corrected fiscal year '22. So that was what was over, and two of our transfers were to correct that and make sure that that was covered.
So, my other questions are about controls.
Yes.
How often is this audited by an outside auditor?
Yearly, annual, every
It
year,
is?
there is a, as part of their review, the auditors come in and they'll look at the workforce program, really to kind of see, I think last year, the reason this kind of flew under the radar maybe last year is that they specifically picked out aging as their program of focus. This year, it is workforce, so obviously we had to, and the audit is still ongoing for fiscal year '22 for the ad as a whole. And this year they did pick workforce as their program of focus for the same audit. But typically, they'll pick either the aging program or workforce program and really dig into the controls and what the programs are there. But for a bird's eye view, this, let's say fiscal year '21, an auditor would look at just, okay, their invoices. They would look at an Equus invoice or a direct service provider, and they would randomly pick invoices, make sure the backup matches, make sure it makes sense what we look to go through the GL code. That's kind of their process. So this type of process probably wouldn't have been picked up then. But this year it would have been. And this is kind of what I've been pretty transparent with them and showing them how it should work and what it is moving forward. So most likely things like that, may be a finding on this year's audit for fiscal year '22. But yeah, that is something that would be picked up when the program is specifically picked.
Who's the auditor?
RFH.
Okay. Are they local?
They're local. Yes, they are downtown.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
And then my last question for right now is, so you mentioned there are now controls in place. What are those controls that will not allow this to happen again?
So that was kind of the thing that we kind of figured out during this process. There was no real way to make sure the CFO position could truly check what, this accounting position. And that goes for both the aging and the workforce accountants. I know when I was in that position, it was just kind of, it was, my word was taken. I just made sure these numbers matched, and then I would, again, reflect those changes to the CFO. There was no real way to check. For instance, the accountant is the only person that's able to log into the state reporting system. So anyways, basically, I met with the state to kind of go over these changes, the amounts and grants that I was changing, and also met with them on ways that we could check, they could review us even. One of the things that we're going to do now is we actually have the ability to export a report in the state system. And then I've also told the state that really we should be uploading income statement on our end to prove what we've reported matches. And that wasn't happening on the state side either. So, and again, this situation was kind of a perfect storm where, they didn't have their kind of controls in place to make sure what we were reporting was correct. So I think after a couple of those meetings that we do have a system in place. So again, we can pull a report from the state work system, which matches what, for instance, Colin will report each month. I can then match that exactly to our income statement, and I can also match that exactly to our receivable. Another thing is the NFAs. That was a big deal. They didn't have, which is the notice of funding award. Those weren't trued up in the work system. So I didn't have a way to make sure what was reported in the work system was our true budget for a grant. That's something I think the state took into consideration, and they're going to make sure that anytime an NFA is issued, we have to immediately make that change within 5 days in the work system to make sure the budget actually matches. That's something that I think will be huge, not only for us, but any program and any ad. But we do have several, those are the big things right now. Obviously this reporting, what I do now, and this is something I put in writing, is I will check this budget analysis. And basically I go through and I run a report where it shows what we have in the accounting system in SIMA matches exactly what the spreadsheet says. And then again, this is then paired to the state reporting system. So we have 3 separate accounting systems essentially that we're all reconciling together.
Okay, so when you do your analysis, how soon after that do you do you said he'll do his and then you'll look at it. What's your date, the time that he'll be doing that?
So his reporting is due the 20th every
Okay.
month. This month, unfortunately, because again, we're still going through audit, we're making a lot of changes. It's been literally at the wire, for January and February. But I've talked with staff upstairs. I would like to have my books closed by the 12th. And what I would do is then give the grant reports to the accountants. They get their reports ready by the 15th, maybe. I would like at least 5 business days before reporting is due to make sure everything reconciles and everything's good. That's the plan that we're trying to get to. And obviously, this is still kind of an ongoing process that we're trying to get in place, but that is something that I've communicated with staff. That's what we want to move to. So.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mike? We've discussed this in our executive board meetings times, and obviously have been every indication is we're aware of everything we need to be aware of and understand the steps that have been taken to resolve the immediate issues and to, as the mayor was questioning, to ensure it doesn't happen again. From the ads perspective, there's significant turnover over the last few years and through COVID of folks that were doing this work, and we are where we are. Problems recognized, and it's being fixed as we speak, and that's important. Certainly the impact that we've seen for folks have been, we've had to reduce staff, and we've taken, the ad has taken those difficult steps to make sure we get back on track. So,
I do have one more question. What happened? You mentioned that you had to pull people out of training. What happened to those people who were in training and you had to pull them out because of this?
For those folks, we're working with them to help them find full-time employment. And by the training, it's our internships is where we had to stop. And so we worked with them. A lot of the employers just went on to hire them full-time because that's their intention anyway. But now the folks that were actually in like a training program, it had already been paid, so we didn't have to pull them out. Some of them are still enrolled in finishing up the program.
Okay. All right, thank you.
does anybody else have any questions for Michael or comments in general? Thank you, Michael. We appreciate it. I know you've explained that 100 times over the last several weeks, and we appreciate that. Thank you for your, and Mayor, we did take an action that Michael keep in mind for at least 5 years. He's locked into the ad for the next 5 years.
Pressure's on.
And we did get, and I don't know if you want, I can go over it. So for the youth funding, some of the other regions did not spend all of their funds, and so the state had recaptured about $400,000 from the other regions of youth only. And so for our youth program, I did apply for that, and we got $365,000 for the youth fund.
We
So
just got the NFA actually at 9 o'clock.
okay,
the email at 9. Yep.
good. So for our youth staff, we were able to keep 4 youth staff and 1 business service staff person. So that'll get us through until we get our next youth grant, which was usually comes at the end of April. And so we were very relieved to get those funding, and then the folks that were already in the youth that were in training, we're going to go on, and if they haven't already found full-time employment, start them in internships again, and continue to help those.
Anybody else have any questions before we move on? Thank you again, Mike. Item number 2, updated election process for recently approved bylaw change. We have a copy of that enclosed. Anything you want to share with us or comment about that?
Sure. With the bylaw changes, we are required, just by our WIP requirements, that we have to also have an updated policy to follow what your bylaws say about elections. So we just updated that policy to match what the bylaws say.
Anybody have any questions regarding that? Okay. And 3, joint meeting and training at EKU Scholar House on September 6th. Amy, are you going to share that, or Robin, or Stacy, or someone else? Anyone?
I can. Robin's really working on getting it all set up, but since she's sick, I'll share about it. So we're going to have the meeting at the EKU Scholar House. It's actually in Richmond. They are super excited to have us there. They have a big space and want to share with us too what all that they do there and provide to the residents of their facility. We will provide lunch, and then we'll be having a training as well on that day.
Okay. Yes, Robin has been very diligent. I think I've gotten 4 reminders that that's when the date is. Thank you, Robin. I need that. I'll need probably a dozen more before September 6th, I assure you. And so that's on the EKU campus?
It is. It's on, so if you've ever been to the Perkins building before, on that side of campus, it's over there. So the parking and everything will be fine. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Great. Number 4, update on National Dislocated Worker Grant.
We received the National Dislocated Worker Grant for COVID back in 2020. It was supposed to expire in 2022, but they extended it another year, and it does expire at the end of this month. We used most of our funds. We had a little bit left over. They had given us a little bit over $1 million. The state as a whole has expended 98% of the COVID funds that we received to help people and help employers get through COVID. And it's everything from, we help pay for PPE equipment, to paying for somebody to sit at the front at some of our employers and take temperatures and answer questionnaires and things like that.
You say they, I assume you mean federal government administered by state government?
It is. It was a NEG grant through the federal government, and they sent it to the state, who then used a formula to divide it up between the different local areas.
Anybody have any questions or comments regarding grant? Number 5, status of bluegrass chemical agent destruction pilot plant layoffs. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. So as we've reported in a couple meetings, so the bluegrass cap, I'll just make it easy, bluegrass cap, will be starting their layoffs in September. So over the next 2.5 years, they're expected to lay off about 1,800 people. And it affects Madison County more heavily than the rest of the counties, but all the counties have residents that work there. It's very highly trained, skilled employees, and their salaries are very high. The lowest pay that they have is a laundry attendant, I think, for $20 an hour. And then it goes on up from there. So we are working with them to identify potential training opportunities for those folks that, maybe making a good salary but need additional skills to find employment. Roly has been working with them to try to schedule orientations for training providers to come in. We've been working with other employers to identify, ways to transfer them to other opportunities with similar skill sets. And their biggest issue is they don't want people to go on and start resigning now because they still need them to fulfill this project. But we're hoping that we can get everybody employed that wants to be employed. There are some folks that will be retiring. A lot of folks that are there, they have went from chemical plant to chemical plant, and this is the last one in the U.S. So they won't have another one to go to. And then some will just take other federal jobs that are available.
So within the federal government, there is no relocation opportunity. This is the last stop.
Yeah.
Do you know what percentage of the workers are going to be eligible for retirement? Is it a significant number?
I think it was pretty significant. It seems like it's about 20% was gonna be eligible for retirement. So,
You mentioned, I think you said all the counties that, mean all the counties in the ad have workers there, or I think
well, a lot of the counties do.
certainly
that
the
surround.
contiguous counties with Madison County. Do we have a breakdown or do we have an
They're
idea?
working on that. They keep doing different surveys on everybody, so they are working on it. We've tried to pull some reports on our own just to identify how many are commuting in and out of Madison County and that sort of thing. But they've run, and the issue is there's multiple contractors. There's not just one. It's not just the Army Depot. So each contractor is doing their own individual surveys and things for it.
Is like Madison County, like 50% of the employees, we think, is that
That live in Madison County?
it's bad.
It's significant, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a huge impact to Madison County, if these folks leave, so we wanna try if at all possible to keep them there.
Does anybody have any comments or questions regarding what's going on in Madison County? Huge impact. Now, you said is it September
It's
1st today?
As of right now, it's September 1st is the first expected layoff.
That's when they'll start.
That's when they start. So that'll be like the first 100, and then every 3 to 6 months after that, then they will continue to lay off folks through the end of 2025, beginning of 2026.
That'll take a while, certainly. You said 1,800. Is that the total number of employees today, or?
Yes, as of today, that's the total number of employees, and they're actually still hiring because they've had some people quit and things, so they actually have
They have to keep things going until the mission is concluded.
Correct.
That's that has to be the most difficult thing, I assume, that we've had to deal with in one location. Without question.
Yeah.
We'll move on to number 6, sector reports, Q3 of 2022.
Stacy may want to add on to a little bit of this, but each quarter we run our sector reports through our JobsEQ system, and it's on our website. We used to put them in the packet, but it's so thick we felt like we were just killing a lot of trees. So she does put it on the website. Stacy, do you want to add anything about the sector reports?
Nope, you have it covered. I would like to say if there are sectors, I mean, we have our high demand sectors listed on there, but if there's a particular sector that maybe you're working with a company that is interested in coming here, we can definitely run reports on that and let you know that information. But in general, it's just the sector reports right now that are updated when they're made available through JobsEQ. I think right now it's the second quarter of 2022, so it's about a year behind.
Could we just a little bit of definition of what we're talking about, why it's necessary, or what sector reports are?
Sure. Under the law, we're required to identify what's considered high demand sectors in each local area. And so our WIB identified 6 sectors that were high demand. That's healthcare, information technology, you tested me here, advanced manufacturing, transportation, distribution, logistics, childcare and education, and construction.
You say high demand, high demand for employees?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that there's ample employment opportunities available for those individuals. And so, I mean, this is a crazy comparison, but like underwater, drilling or welding, or that would not be considered high demand.
Sure.
Those are positions that are available. And so with these reports, we identify employers that are hiring in our 17 counties, positions that are available. We can just any kind of economic analysis is shown in those reports about what's going on here in just the 17 counties.
So, and that's something that's required all ads, not only in Kentucky, similar throughout the country, that this is a federal requirement.
To identify the sectors, it is. But
so we as an ad determine what sectors are.
The Bluegrass WIB does.
Okay.
Yep, and they determine that based on, information reporting, that sort of thing. It starts, the KWIB will identify high demand sectors, and we can either, use all those same sectors, or we can have our own. So for example, the child care and education, that's not one that the Kentucky WIB identifies or other WIBs identify as high demand, but it's very high demand here in the Bluegrass.
So do we know what the KWIB sectors are? Is there only two of them that we don't agree with or we don't match?
I couldn't tell you just off the top of my head what all the KWIB's additional sectors are, but I think I know for sure they have our 5 sectors, everything but the child care and education.
So that's not an issue across the state. That is surprising, isn't it?
It's based on the needs of that local area. So for example, hospitality is a big sector in the Lincoln Trail area, but hospitality isn't considered a high demand sector. But now, like, if you all feel that should be considered, then that's definitely, we can take to our Bluegrass WIB and say, let's take a deep dive into this sector and see if we need to make it a high demand sector.
Can you have more than 6? Yeah. You can have as many as
you can have as many as you need. Yes.
So there's no restriction to the total.
No, not at all.
Anybody else have any questions? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh no, you're fine.
We don't get to meet real often, and I'd like for us to be re-educated every time. And speaking of education, I always hats off to Stacy. Stacy has actually taught me to do an electronic signature on a document. It's like a 3rd grade teacher with a child trying to coax me through things like that. Thank you, Stacy. Always, it's good to see you. Anybody else have any comments or questions regarding the sector reports? Next, we have number 7, direct service provider reports for January and February. Jennifer Hayes.
Good morning, everybody. In your packets, you'll have the January and February monthly reports, and I'll just hit a couple highlights, and then you all are free to ask any questions that you wish. But at the end of February, we had enrolled 287 participants, and then during the month of February, we had 32 WEX paid internship participants on our payroll. Between January and February combined, we exited 74 participants to employment, which is the ultimate goal of the program. And then we continued outreach in libraries, adult eds, schools, recovery centers, colleges, other community partners. We have some regular scheduled outreach events that we go to each month. For example, in Fayette, we do Charles Young and Black and Williams Center that we have staff on site each month. And then one big thing that has definitely picked up ground over the past few months is our VR career exploration headsets. And we've been out in a lot of different counties. Jeremy Hurd has been really great about taking those VR headsets out and working with staff for students and job seekers out in the community. But the past couple months, we've been in Anderson, Franklin, Estill, Mercer, and then we've had other job fair and events in Boyle, Jessamine, and Madison. So we're still continuing to touch a lot of ground and serve a lot of our counties. At the end of each of the reports that I submit, I put a couple of success stories, and there's 2 success stories in the February packet. And the first one is an example of a participant who we enrolled and put into a paid internship, and she gained suitable employment afterward. And then the second one is a job seeker that we worked with and paid for CDL training. And again, that person gained suitable employment, which is the goal of the program. So if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. But I also want to show my appreciation for Amy. Amy and I have worked together I've worked with Amy for 11 years. She trained me to be a case manager in 2012. And so Amy is a wonderful person and a great leader. And so I just want to thank Amy for her service and her leadership to the Bluegrass. And then also want to show my appreciation um, for the company that I work for, Equus Workforce Solutions, because they're a great company to work for. And on February the 20th, I was told that I had to lay 20 staff off, close the business day the next day. And that's a hard pill to swallow after you've worked, with alongside staff on a daily basis. And so Deb Giordano, our VP, and Mark Douglas, our president, reached out to me that day and immediately started making plans, and they ultimately approved to continue to keep staff on 30 days, and for and not to charge the ad for that money, but just to keep staff. And so it's been a rough month for staff, for sure, but we have 6, almost 7 who have gained employment opportunities since in the past 3 weeks. And so that's a good sign. And 5 of those 6 staff have taken jobs with pay increases. So that's a lot easier to lay down and sleep at night when you know that the staff are going on and they've gotten pay increases. So they're taking good opportunities. And then, like Amy said, we had the opportunity to retain 5 staff to continue youth services. So there's still some good things coming out of it, and I still think that this program has good work to be done. And so I just want to thank you all, and especially thanks to Amy.
Thank you, Jennifer. We certainly echo your appreciation for Amy, and we all, I'm sure, understand your anxiety over what you had to deal with regarding staff, and that was a difficult situation, of course. We have an appreciation for what you've experienced, as you said, over this last month or so. Thank you for what you did. Anybody have any questions for Jennifer? Thank you, ma'am. Move to number 8, one-stop operator reports for January and February. Todd is still with us, patiently waiting. Todd, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Judge. Well, obviously, I echo everything that Jennifer said there, but also want to give a big shout out to Jennifer because through all this process, dealing with 21 folks that are looking at losing their employment, we're the people that help people find employment. So we found ourselves in a odd shape, and Jennifer was super great to everybody, just a great leader. So I want to express my appreciation to her, as well as everything she said about Amy. So in your package, you will find monthly reports from January and February, just to hit on a couple of the high points and kind of explain a little bit. So at the top, you see the number of in-person visitors and phone calls to the Career Center. The second number there is the number of new referrals that have been logged in through our electronic referral system. And there, the third number is the customers that receive core or basic services. So these are people that may not ever hit a enrollment or be enrolled to actually have any money spent on them. These are people that just come in with help for a job. They want somebody to look at a resume. So those are the 3 numbers that you see there to kind of reflect on exactly what it is that the flow of customers looks like through the KCCs. Month of January, I met with the Lexington Public Library's Workforce Development Manager, Lori Davis. I'm sure most of you remember there was a big push in the past years to get libraries certified as access points, especially those in the outlying counties where we have our KCCs. We were able to get 12 of those done, 12 of the 13, Woodford County being the outlier, and they were doing some staffing, reconstruction, and some actually remodeling of the building. So they have been back on board. But we're also looking to expand the access points to the Lexington Public Libraries and their 6 locations, just so we have a presence there also. And our customers, if they are in the library, are able to access KCC services through a kiosk. So Lori and I have met. She's going to outline 1 location or 2 where we can kind of pilot it here, but to just expand those access points to some of the locations here in Lexington as well. Also in January, and I would kind of venture to say moving towards the future, I was involved in a lot of employer meetings. We had our business service manager on maternity leave, so I was taking up some slack for her and kind of taking some of the employer meetings. So you can see a list of those there. And then we also attended the Blue Oval Partnership meeting at the Richmond Center to try and help Blue Oval connect with job seekers in the Bluegrass area. So that was the report for January. Moving on to February, again, those numbers at the top there indicate the in-person walk-ins, referrals, and those receiving core services. I participated with an HR forum in Cynthiana, Paris, and Carlisle through the Maysville Community and Technical College. They hosted a reentry simulation. So I worked one of the booths down there for them for the reentry simulation. A couple of our staff went down and attended. And if you've not been through a reentry simulation before, I would highly recommend it. It gives those going through the simulation a real idea of what it's like for somebody out there that is trying to get back in the workforce through a significant barrier. So maybe they've been released from incarceration, maybe they've got some issues in recovery, but that simulation shows you exactly how hard it is for somebody to get back on their feet. So we were glad to be a part of it. That way we can kind of, educate our employers out there about exactly how hard it is for somebody when they're dealing with those barriers. Employer meetings and job fair planning. So we've got a lot of career fairs coming up that we've already had schedules. We will be sticking with those commitments. So just a couple of those that I was involved in. And then, of course, Stacy and I get together on a regular basis and record community resource videos. These are just short videos about other programs that are out in our 17 county community. We did one with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services on their REAP program, and we did one with the AdZone Community Planning Department. So if there's something going on out in your community that you'd like to raise awareness to, reach out to Stacy, reach out to myself. We'll be glad to have a special guest on, get some information, and promote that through all of our social media avenues. So with that, I'll submit those reports and ask for any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone have any questions for Todd? Todd, the numbers for both months, are those pretty typical? I guess obviously the last 2 or 3 years have not been typical in any way. But when you first started, 703 in-person phone calls, and is that a year ago in January? Did we see something similar?
It's hard to say, Judge. I mean, typically when you're looking at those months in January, months that schools are starting back up and things, there's training programs are starting after the first year. Those numbers are a little bit higher. But really since COVID, our in-person numbers have just fallen. I've talked to my counterparts in other areas, and that seems to be kind of across the board. There are just not as many folks walking through the doors of the centers looking for those in-person services. So Jennifer and her team, the strategy that they were using to kind of go out and do all that outreach has really been what's kept our numbers, better than usual, and through the pandemic especially. But it's hard to say, really, Judge. I mean, I think 700 was probably a slower month prior to COVID, but after that, it's probably a higher month. I mean, it really just depends. The number to focus on there as you're looking at those numbers, those bottom 2 numbers are actual customers that we have received information from, that we have provided a service for. And those are just here in our 4 offices. But this 700 comes, from phone calls, anything that we provide, we try and track. That way we can kind of show exactly what the staff are doing. But I think those 2 second numbers, the 142 referrals and the 101 receiving those core services, those are people that were actually providing some sort of more intensive customer service with.
Thank you, sir. One other question I have, and I guess it's a little bit selfish, but I think all of our counties are experiencing something similar. How can county governments partner with the career centers related to attracting or recruiting or encouraging consideration of a career for instance, paramedics or law enforcement? Obviously, we all deal with that, and it's difficult to staff. Firefighters, the mayor probably has more public scrutiny because of the size of her community, but we all experience the same thing. We're struggling with attracting, especially younger people, to these career paths. There's a dramatic change in 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Not everybody wants to grow up and be a firefighter anymore or a policeman, right? Those times are different now. Do you have any advice for any of us related to the individual county governments?
Judge, I don't have anything I can tell you that's gonna change what we're looking at out there, but I think that really, we're getting involved more. Jennifer mentioned the VR headsets that we're using with Jeremy. There's all kinds of programs that they're coming out with those that may be something to look into if they have anything out there in that workbook of careers that are potential, Jeremy, that we may be able to look into. But really getting more involved with the schools, and our youth team's always been really good with going out and promoting, post-secondary, options and things. I think getting out in the schools, and if you've got connections, I'm sure all the judges and mayors do, connect us with some of those folks that are in those positions, and we'd be glad to try and get them into the schools and those schools that we have contact with. I mean, I think making that connection between, education and the career itself is probably one of the most important things to do. So if you've got folks that work for you, Judge, that we could take into these careers and schools as we're doing these career events, that might be a place to start.
Thank you, Todd.
I'd also like to point out that is an excellent opportunity for Community Resource Minute. If you have someone from like an EMT or fire or police that would like to show us a day in the life and show us what it's like, we can definitely schedule to get that recording set up and get Todd to interview them so we can kind of overlap the thing together so we can promote it and show, just as people are on social media, let them see little clips of what it's like to be in those roles and kind of encourage people to look at that as a career option for them.
Thank you, Stacy. Yes, ma'am.
May I, this is related and it's a piece of information, and Todd, maybe when you mentioned re-entry, it got me to thinking about something else, and you may have some ways to, when you are seeing people that they may be interested. But last year, Lexington had its first ever city-sponsored expungement clinic, and we paired it with a job fair. And so people who had low-level charges on their record in Fayette County, you can live somewhere else, but if you have a charge before the court in Fayette County, you could go through it. And we had 400 people go through there. Their records were expunged, and then they went straight over to the job fair. We had a lot of employers there. So we're going to do this again this year on April 28th, and we're partnering this time with Goodwill, because Goodwill has had some of these on their own. And I would encourage any of you to, if you have someone who can't get a job because they have a low-level charge on their record and they stay forever unless they're expunged. Or if you know, I don't know if you'll know of someone, but you can kind of get the word out. And the charges in Fayette County, because we're only working with the Fayette County judges, we would love for them to come through this and see if they can get their record expunged and then get a job. We had really good success with this. And
great advice.
And I think all the counties probably, there are people who have charges in Fayette, which would maybe qualify. So we're trying every way we can. I appreciate, Todd, what you said about re-entry and everything you're doing, because it's like an all-out effort to get employees. So,
it is.
Yeah.
It is indeed. Thank you, Mayor, for that advice. Appreciate that. Thank you, Todd. Does anybody else have any questions for Todd specifically? Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Move to number 9, virtual reality events and usage reports. It's an interesting
Yeah, so we purchased the virtual reality Oculus headsets back in November, and they have been a huge success. We purchased 5. There is the options for just a career exploration, and then there's the option for actual training opportunities where they can go through multiple courses and get a certificate of completion after they've completed all of those modules in the different training programs. Jeremy's really been the lead on this. He has taken them to job fairs, to schools, and all the staff has participated in some of them. And it's really fun to watch the youth try out the different occupations of things that they may have never tried out before or had the opportunity to. So we're really excited to see how much people have used them. He's got 3 or 4 activities every week. Sometimes he's double hooked in different activities. So Jeremy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that or not.
I think you covered everything. We've also been at the Fayette Juvenile Detention Center. We went there last week, the week before. So, yeah, it gives them a good opportunity to explore some careers, like maybe said, that they really haven't maybe thought of a lot. And it lets them do that in kind of a hands-on environment where they, like with automotive, they can go in and actually change the oil in a car. They pick up the wrench, they turn it, everything, they see everything that's going on. And we have the ability to cast that to a TV so that everyone in the room can actually see what they're doing too, which the kids find fun. So, yeah.
How does a person get access to that?
They can either contact the career centers or they can contact me directly.
So in relation to my previous question, you could a young person experience being a firefighter?
Yep, they do. They have one of the modules is public safety, so they can do like currently, and they're always expanding what they have available. Right now, they're working on healthcare, but they have right now. There's like a fire extinguisher safety simulation where they can go in and they can learn all about the different types of fire extinguishers and how to properly use one and maintenance it.
Send you the product catalog so you can see all the different options for the different trainings available if you'd like to see that.
All the modules of OSHA are covered in it. So they can go and see lockout, tag out, bloodborne pathogen, things like that.
So this is not something that we have to buy, that OSHA provides it or makes modules available?
The mod, it's all purchased. We purchased everything through a company called Transfer VR. And yeah, all the modules come with it. So we already have access to everything that they have available, and we'll have access to everything that they're coming with.
Interesting.
The catalog as well as how to contact is available on the bgwib.us website, and it's just bgwib.us/VR. I've put it in the chat, but we can also send it out to you after the meeting.
Thank you, Stacy.
And we'd be happy to organize an event to bring those out, Judge, and maybe pull in some first responders to be able to come and talk to the groups as they're there so that they can get virtual reality and then real life stories. So we could definitely organize that for you and would be happy to.
Jennifer, is it appropriate or is it more effective to have these viewed in group settings rather than individually, or does it matter? Depending on what the occupation is.
I think for the career exploration, a group is a better idea because they can, as a group, they can kind of see what's involved in doing the things. For the actual virtual training, it probably one-on-one or 0.5 really. Just because you don't want a whole bunch of people just sitting around doing nothing while the 5 people are training.
Makes sense. Anybody else?
Actually, one more thing to add. You were talking about, or Jennifer was talking about having firefighters out. My son is actually a Scott County firefighter, and he's used these and he's done the public safety. So he thought it was really neat. Good.
And we did have our chair of our WIV, John Daughtery, who's an electrician, do the electrician training portion of it. And we had him do that prior to making the purchase to make sure that he gave these the thumbs up, like it actually is legitimate. And he said, yeah, he was very impressed with the electrician portion on it and how close it was to actually being there in real life.
We've had the healthcare students at BCTC do the healthcare modules, and we had the diesel mechanic instructors at BCTC do the diesel technology.
Great tool. Fascinating for sure. Good question. And younger people, whatever that
They pick
means,
up on it just like
obviously
that.
that's the world they live in, right? We understand that.
It's the adults, when we put it on, we're like, how do we do this? And the kids don't even have to think
Tell
about
you,
it.
when a teacher puts one on, every phone in the building comes out. They all start videoing their teacher doing it.
Yes. Anybody else before we move on? We have one more category under informational items, number 10, success stories.
There was a request a while back from one of our board members. They would just like to actually see some of our success stories. And so we decided that at each meeting, we would just play a short success story. It's real quick, just so you all can kind of see an actual participant that went through the program and how it helped them.
Just a second, I'm not done this through Zoom yet.
My name is Lisa Batchy. A little over a year ago, I found myself in Kentucky. Both of my children had moved here, so I followed them. I wasn't going to stay behind in Florida without my children. When I got here, I was pretty limited as far as jobs go and resources go because in Florida, I had been a private caregiver. So when I came here, my daughter was telling me about the Kentucky Career Center and that she knew Misty and that it would be a good opportunity for me to try to get in and find some sort of a career for me to do. So I went from there and I contacted Misty and she got right on it and we worked together, we developed a plan, and she said, I think I have found the perfect position for you at Thornhill Education Center. And she told me about the position and the job, and I said, well, that's awesome. That sounds like something I could really sink my teeth into and really get in the door. But she told me that there was a possibility it would not become a full-time position because Thornhill is a nonprofit organization and positions just don't become available. When I came in, I believe I was just answering phones. I didn't really have per se a title. I was just answering phones, helping out the front office in any way that I could and doing things like that. My working position with Kentucky Career Center was working as an internship. It was 480 hours of the internship here at Thornhill. As I was working here, I noticed the people coming and going and everybody was getting their GED. And I happened to think, well, I'm pretty sure I have my GED, but I don't remember having an actual physical copy of my GED. So we have an online form that you can take. So I typed in the information and it popped up that I actually did not have my GED. So I've been lying to people for years. No, I didn't have my diploma. So I let them know right away that I did not have my GED. And Trina Wallace and Kelly Anderson were like, well, we'll fix that right away. So we did, and in less than a month, I actually had my GED. From there, I just kind of fit in, as they tell me around here. I got along great with all the women and the one male that works here. We just kind of became friends. Anything they asked me to do, I was eager and willing to do. I mean, I can't just sit here all day and do nothing, and they liked the job that I did and offered me the position. And of course, I jumped on it with both feet, and here I am. My position here at Thornhill as administrative assistant, sounds classy, huh? I'm also a certified Pearson tester here at Thornhill. I'm very grateful for the Kentucky Career Center and for Misty. When people ask me how I feel about my life right now, I always tell them that I went through a series of phenomenal women to get where I am right now, starting with Misty Seitz and ending with Kelly Anderson, Tasha Chandler, and Trina Wallace. If it hadn't have been for those 4 women and their eagerness to keep pushing me and make me go, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I extremely, extremely recommend Kentucky Career Center as the way to go.
Great story, Amy. That's the end of our list for informational items. I guess I can legally ask if anyone has anything else they want to bring up at this time. Anyone want to share their heartache about Amy leaving? Anything? All good? Amy, thank you. This is a big day in history for you, your last official meeting.
It is. I mean, I do want to thank Amy for her service to the Bluegrass and to the workforce. It's a little awkward for me because we're really excited that she will be working in workforce for Lexington, but we're kind of all in this together. So it really helps that she's got that broad picture of the counties, and I think that's a really good thing from our perspective. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. She has support over the last, I've been almost 18 years, so she had all the support from everyone.
And Mike, good luck to you. We look forward to working with you, obviously, and we know things are going to be just fine. And you've got a challenge in front of you. We know you're up to it without question. You know that we're all here for you, whatever we can to assist in with your transition in any way we can. Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, one last time, anyone have anything else they want to mention or ask about? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move adjourn.
Mayor has, Judge Gritton, Mayor Gorton beat you to it. We have a second from Judge Gritton. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And please let the record show that Judge Kay has been with us throughout the meeting. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. We are adjourned, folks. Thanks to staff. Thanks to everyone who's been here to assist with this meeting, and we'll look forward to good things ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.